All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the press coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. And you know I'm smiling. Today is Friday, and guess who we have in the studio today? Dr. Mefor. And together we shall be taking a look at the headlines we read out to you earlier. I'm always excited to have you here with me on Friday. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
It's always interesting to have these conversations with you. Now, we have lots of interesting conversations on our national dailies. But let's not forget that tomorrow is the gubernatorial poll.
Oh, yeah.
So let's begin with, what are your expectations for tomorrow?
Well, I think...
taking into consideration the events from the presidential
polls, right? I think the presidential polls, started out very well. The preparations, the build-ups, and all that. Fantastic. Even the voting itself, for me, was quite impressive. Beavers worked fantastically well. Well over 90%.
Yeah.
So the problem kicked in when we came to coalition. That's not a problem of beavers. It's man-made. It's where what we call the human factor came to interfere with the process. So I don't think beavers failed. And I don't expect the beavers to fail tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, there were hiccups here and there. It's expected. And you are talking about 176,606 polling units all over Nigeria. So even you have hiccups in less than 5% of the polling units, I think 95% is a great deal. For me, even 80% is a great deal. So if a beaver has worked up to 80%, and I believe beavers worked perhaps up to 90%, presidential election was well laid out, and they could have actually achieved that objective which Professor Mahmoud Yakubu and the commission set out to achieve, which was to give Nigerians, free, fair, credible, and acceptable election. The kind of election that would be at par with what you may call global best practices. So much hope. The build-up, the kind of hope, that was inspired by the preparations, could be seen in the quality of international observers. Look, we had 4 former presidents here. We had the president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta was here. Liberia, Sierra Leone, and 2 others. They were here. And when the coalition started, everybody became quite disappointed. And it was a show of shame when we go to that extent.
Yeah.
So moving forward, tomorrow for the Guba, there are so many factors that will come to play. And many of those factors weren't at play during the presidential elections. For example, the 3 key presidential candidates are not on the ballot. Only their political parties are. Their absence from the ballot is a major factor going forward tomorrow. Take, for instance, somebody like Obi, where he won landslide. He's not the one contesting. So those who are contesting, certainly they will benefit from the personalities of these 3 major presidential candidates.
Okay.
But they will have to answer their papa name also. And it depends. It depends on which weighs in heavier to really account for the outcome. So many factors. Politics is essentially local. What that means is that there are certain local, state, and regional factors that will come to play. Then the dominance of certain political parties also will have to come to play. There are areas where you have what you may call home state of certain political parties, where they could always refer to as their forte. You can say that for APC Southwest, for example. APC is always very strong. Southwest, PDP Southeast, South, middle, not central. Do you understand that? PDP has always been very strong, even though that foundation has been seriously shaken by the entry of Obi into the equation. But it will still play out seriously.
Okay.
Because those who voted for Obi don't necessarily have to vote for Labour. Though a good number of them still would vote for Labour. But I believe that the traditional state of the certain political parties, they will be able to still harvest enough of votes to determine a victory for them. This is one of the factors that will be playing out. I also would want to see beavers again. I think that I keep talking about beavers. Beavers has actually helped Nigeria and INEC to gain a lot of mileage compared to what happened in Nigeria in the past. Look at the overall number of votes, less than 25 million. In 2007, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua won the election by 27-point-something million. 2007. Followed by President Muhammad Buhari with 6-point-something million. Right?
Yeah.
Then the third person, one Abubakar, I don't even know who that is or was, came a distant third with 2-point-something million. Now, compared to the figures registered in 2023, last 2 Saturdays, what does that tell you? It tells you that much of the figures that have or had obtained in the Nigerian electoral process since 1999, much of that had been written by people.
Don't you think it's a case of voter apathy?
It's not. That we have much more enthusiasm this time around. That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
Much more enthusiasm. Look at the obedience. Look at the upsurge with the youth. Look at so much enthusiasm. So compared to the humongous figures we posted in the past, do you understand that? You will see that more than 50% of the votes recorded in the past, something was accounted for it, not the votes by the people. That's the point I'm making. And beavers will repeat the same thing because the Electoral Act 2022, which replaces the Electoral Act of 2010, right, says that no accreditation by beavers, no voting. That means there will be no voting by proxy. Even the court, there's a court judgment, at the moment that came out about a week or so.
Yes.
That
once you've registered for.
Yes, that you can vote with your TPC, temporary voters register. The young lawyer, a member of Abuja School of Political and Social Thoughts.
Victor Patola.
Yeah, Victor. Yes, sorry, Victor. He will skin me alive for calling him Greg. I remember. In fact, I was supposed to be, the chief driver of that. But I was looking for my permanent voter card. It was needed, and time was of the essence. So he had to move on.
You have your permanent voter's card.
I later found it to be able to vote, but I didn't find it then.
Okay.
I didn't find it that when this case was. I made reference to this to show that if INEC would yield to that court judgment, even people with temporary voters card will have to vote tomorrow. I'm not sure now because I read somewhere that INEC is saying they would appeal the judgment. Whatever be the case, beavers will come to party again, second time. Beavers will be able to determine those who would vote. Whether you're using PVC or TVC, beavers will have to accredit you. You know, and the duty of beavers, which is a remarkable improvement upon what it used to be with what they call smart card, you know, reader. That was modal. This is bimodal, you know, thumbprint and facial recognition. That is a remarkable improvement. In the polling unit where I voted, there was nobody that complained that he couldn't be accredited. So I believe it was generally the case across the board. It's not as if there weren't pockets of problems here and there. But overall, beavers, if it comes to party tomorrow, then the people will determine who would become the governors, will determine those who will become House of Assembly members. And this is what democracy is about. Democracy is the imposition of the will of the people. Call it tyranny of the majority. Do you understand that? Yeah. They choose who they want. If they decide to choose, you know, an idiot, pardon my language, you know, I'm talking figuratively here, now, you know, that's their problem. And if the person becomes a problem after winning, they will live with it because it was their choice. But a situation where a handful of people would sit in a house and write results and bring out somebody. That is not democracy. It is oligarchy. You know, so if you understand how oligarchy works, you know, which has always been the case with Nigeria until the introduction of beavers, oligarchy is a very essential here. If you understand it to be the rulership of a handful of people. Do you understand that? Yeah. Even though in a democracy, it's still about what I think it was Mitchell, a major political thinker, Mitchell. He was talking about the iron law of oligarchy. And he said that in any political setting or circumstance, only a handful of people will emerge. But at least in democracy, you do it through the people. But in the past, since 1999, they don't care about the people. In 2007, particularly, who conducted the worst election ever, anywhere. But you know, it was so bad, apart from the humongous figure of 27 million for Yaradua. Do you know that he got to the point that even Yaradua, that was the current president, say, I beg, wait. No, not this. And he instituted the Bagore committee that started the reforms, you know, that brought us to where we are at the moment. You know, the point I'm making is now the people will, you know, they are beginning to have their way. And it will go a long way tomorrow. Do you understand that? There are other factors that will, however, whittle down the desire and the capacity of the people to impose who they want. Fuel, money, poverty, so many things. It's such that even the little money you have in the bank, you can't access. I supported the policy initially, even on your platform here. But the implementation is getting worse and worse by the day. What that means is that the exact aim for supporting or coming up with the Naira redesign policy, you know, that I choose to call Naira recoloration, you know, by the president supported because he said he was going to stop vote buying, but I'm saying the opposite. What that means is that since the little money they released, the 400 to 500 billion they printed, you know, ended up with the same politicians, it means that money will become much more important now. Whoever sees 1,000 Naira may be really seeing something. So if they deploy that little money to this election, it's going to have very negative impact on the people because the people are belligerent, hungry, deprived. That privation is where the problem will be. And don't forget that the people that went to the not central bank this time, to the Supreme Court for the intervention of the judiciary in the process, were the governors. Started with the Erufai Kaduna, with the Bello of Kogi, and my other friend in Zamfara. Later on, I think 9 others, making them 12, joined up. Why were they insisting that the old and new Naira note must coexist? The simple reason, as far as I am concerned, is because they have huge reservoirs of old Naira notes. It will come to play tomorrow. It's going to be a problem. So my fear ultimately is that the hunger imposed by the Naira crisis will have very negative consequence, because money, even little money, money as small as 500 Naira will mean something to poor Nigerians in the rural areas, in the urban centers, who haven't had access to their own money. You see where my fear is?
Yes.
And finally, too, I also think that beyond the Naira and fuel crisis, the artificial poverty, before now, we were told that 133.3 million Nigerians are now in what we call multi-dimensional poverty. I believe with this fuel crisis and Naira crisis, the figure has gone up. It must have gone up by at least 30%. Yeah, because so many small businesses have died. They have died. Take for instance now the POS operators, 1.4 million of them in Nigeria. Not up to 400,000 of them are operating now. The rest have gone under. It's an example of the kind of business that died. And this is what you may call self-help measures being employed by some Nigerians to be able to survive. This Naira crisis has knocked some of these things off completely. What that means is that for them to come back to business, they will have to begin to look for fresh capital. It's an evidence that the number of Nigerians that have gone further down into what you call absolute and multi-dimensional poverty have actually grown up. Let me stop here.
All right, you made mention of the fact that the beavers process was amazing. The voting process was amazing, but we all had issue with the collation process.
Yes.
So do you think, do you see that happening again tomorrow, or do you see, because when I asked earlier, I was of the opinion that because of the collation process, lots of people are going to choose not to vote tomorrow.
I know.
And I'm actually seeing more obedience not coming out tomorrow to vote, because I feel like their hopes has died after the presidential elections.
Well, I will plead with them not to despair. Okay, they should keep the faith. Their principal, Peter B, is already telling them, look, we are going to recover our mandate. It's already in the tribunal. The interesting thing is Asewaju, of the Emilokon fame, is already declared president-elect. Atiku Abubakar said, I won the election. Obi said, I won the election. We have 3 winners here. 3 winners. But we can't have 3 winners. One of them would win. Why is this so? It's because of what I call self-inflicted injury, on INEC and on the process by Professor Mahmoud and his commission. Because, the Electoral Act 2022, Section 64, subsection 4, says a collation officer or a returning officer shall collate and announce, subject to verification and confirmation of 2 figures shown on the transmitted result. Whether you say transferred result or transmitted is a matter of semantics. The issue is that there should be 2 results. One forwarded in advance by whatever means, but naturally electronic, since bringing it, if it has to go before the one that is physically brought by the electoral officer. Certainly, he has to use some means that will go in advance. Certainly not the DHL or Okada, is by electronic means. And again, if you check the INEC guidelines, what you call the election manual for 2022 also, right? It starts by saying that these guidelines are made pursuant to the Electoral Act. I don't know if you have seen it. That's the first thing he says, that these guidelines are made pursuant to the Electoral Act. That means the guidelines are teased out from the Electoral Act. Do you understand that?
Yes.
As a way of operationalizing the Electoral Act. If you go to paragraph 38, it tells you about how, that is how to transmit. It's by electronic means. It defines it. It categorizes it. It says that the beavers will have to snap the result and then upload to the INEC portal. This is INEC guideline. And do you know that INEC guideline is a law unto INEC itself? There is a judgment by the Court of Appeal, I think in 2008, where this issue, was debated and a decision taken by the court.
Okay.
And the Court of Appeal ruled that the guideline of INEC is a law as long as it derives from the Electoral Act. In other words, if it is operationalizing the Electoral Act, it is a law unto itself. What that means is that even INEC cannot set it aside without coming up with another guideline that follows a due process. And of course, due process here means that all the stakeholders, political parties, candidates will have to be part of it. The way they were part of the electoral guidelines of INEC for 2022. Now, you collated and announced the results without verifying and confirming as directed by section 64 subsection 4 and by your own guideline, paragraph 38. And you turn around to say, well, you see, it is not mandatory. We are not saying...
But that's not what the Electoral Act says.
You put it down there. You made it mandatory unto yourself. And the Electoral Act also made it mandatory and obligatory. And you abandoned it all. And you told the people, go to court. Look, we knew that there is a Supreme Court before we put in place INEC. We should have asked the Supreme Court to organize the election. Do you understand what I'm saying? So why abdicate your statutory responsibility to the Supreme Court? Now, when the matter gets to the Supreme Court, it is time barred 180 days for you to prove what happened in 176,000 polling units. And the onus of proving this is on the litigants. That is where the problem is. It's now you that will prove what INEC did, not INEC proving what he did as a commission. Do you see where the problem is? So INEC would now say, go to court, while Mahmoud and his commissioners can go to one banana island and ride around.
We have a caller on the line.
Oh, come on.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press.
Good morning, Lady Sandra.
Good morning to you too.
Good morning to my all-respected one, Dr. Law.
Good morning, my brother.
Thank you, sir. I am privileged to listen to you on several occasions. You may not know, and I sincerely appreciate your position in our dear country, Nigeria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quickly this morning, because I'll be going out of Abuja to observe the election. My name is Raimi from Abuja.
Thank you for joining us again.
So,
yeah, okay, hear you.
Thank you. I want to quickly add some points to this morning show before I take my leave.
Okay.
This morning, we started from yesterday, I saw some people completed by, I think, AIT, where they displayed that the breakdown of how INEC spent over 300 billion naira given to them to conduct this election. And one thing that shocked me, I saw there was the estate, work, and transport that 8.52 billion naira went into. And I was like, did they build those estates? Or what happened? I wish as time goes on, maybe after the election, you can bring somebody that will help us to analyze how INEC spent our money. Okay. Because I also try to compare it with the registry, the voter registry. The amount spent on voter registry was 7.something billion naira, which the one that went into estate, work, and transport was even higher. So, quickly, that is just one thing I want to add. Another thing is this thing. You see, I want to tell Nigerians what they should look for in tomorrow's election. Because what we observed from the last one was that these people who destabilize the activity, they come into those environments around 1, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. when they notice that accreditation has been done before the real vote starts. I see it as a strategy for the people that don't want us to progress. They come in knowing that some people have been accredited and the record is already on the paper. So they come in, steal the paper, steal the other material, and the PO, that is the unit officer, then they go out to somewhere else and give something, give that to us. At the end of the day, we begin to see because this, I'm telling you, it's one of the things we have verified.
Okay.
But I'm not going to talk much about it now. I just want Nigerians to be observant about it. Once you are accredited and you notice some people coming in to take our material, please go online, either on your WhatsApp, either on your Facebook, whatever opportunity you have. Go on live video so that people will not come out tomorrow to say the video has been doctored. Go on live video. Let all of us see it.
All
please,
right.
anywhere you are, if you see anything malicious happening, go on live.
All right. Thank you so much for your contributions.
Thank you.
Important points made there. Thank you so much.
Yes, I get the point he's making. But there is also an improvement to minimize his fears. You vote immediately after accreditation. This is very important. You know, before you finish accreditation before voting. You know, but now you vote immediately after accreditation. So once you accredit, you vote. That's the new process. I experienced it last 2 Saturdays when I went to vote. And you know, the point I was trying to make is, you know, when I say that INEC abdicated its responsibility to the courts, because that's what they're saying, go to court. The most annoying aspect is that there is a provision in this Electoral Act 2022 that gives the commission 1 to 2 weeks to review complaints before final announcement. Now, since there were very legitimate complaints during the collation, the final collation of the presidential results in Abuja here, and Professor Mahmood also made promises, look, let me be done with collation, then we will go into the complaints. He finished the collation and announced the winner. And now ask the people to take their complaints to the court. That is very dishonorable. You don't do that. You are dealing with, you know, fellow, you know, Nigerians. You are not better than any of them. You are not more Nigerian than any of them. So you don't make a fool of the entire citizenry. These were your words. More than 2-3 times he said, let me be done. So what stops you from even symbolically calling your commission, you know, you have a management board. You call, they say, look at this, look at, as a presiding officer, you will still achieve your way of saying, look, the commission thinks that many of these complaints can be verified at this level. it is better resolved. But that, that impunity, that disrespect, that nobody matters. The only person that matters in Nigeria is President Muhammadu Buhari, and the rest of us can go to hell. You don't do that. There is posterity.
All right, let's take this call. We have lots of conversations today. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Fortune. I'm calling from Abuja.
Good morning, Fortune. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I want to ask Mefor to clarify this argument for us, because I don't know, apart from scoring, people have been talking about going to court about the irregularities of the election. But there are some things that I have noticed all this while, which people are not even talking about, and this does not matter. Like scoring 25% of voters in 24 states of the country, and including Abuja, because that part of the law, that part of the constitution talk about FCC in particular. It does not talk about replacing it with any other state. So it said that the voters, the winner, should also score FCC. And I watch some Ghanaian there is this program called Good Evening Ghana. So they were deliberating on this argument, and they were laying emphasis on that particular, affirmation that you must score, including LCT. So why are people not even talking about it, including the people who are going to court, or has that not been changed? So I want to get clarification about that one too.
Yeah. Yes. People are talking about it, and I'm aware that at least the PDP, included it in the questions they are raising. And my view on this, has always been, and it hasn't changed, that FCT is part of the states in Nigeria where it comes to production of the president. In fact, there is a place in the Constitution that says that, I think Section 192 or something like that, that says that for the production of the President of Nigeria, FCT is considered a state. But there is a problem. In fact, two. One is the drafting itself. When you say 24 states, and FCT, that and
makes it look like
makes FCT stand alone. Do you see the problem?
Yes.
But even at that, there is still an ambiguity there. If the Constitution had said 24 states and in FCT, the article, the insertion of the article in would have cleared the ambiguity. Surely making FCT to stand alone. And again, go to the divisibility of the figure 36 states. You are looking for 25%. That means you are looking for 1/4 of the votes. It means that you are looking for a figure that is divisible by 4.
Okay.
36 is divisible by 4. But 37 is not. So if you consider FCT a state, you are talking about 37 states here. And if you use your calculator, you will arrive at to the 4.65 or something. In other words, I see inelegant drafting here. An omission, a very grievous one, because if they had said 25 states instead of 24, one would clearly see that they took FCT into consideration. But leaving it at 24, and 24 will yield 36 and not 37. What that means is that we still have to wait for what the Supreme Court would say.
Don't you think that's why it was said 24 and
FCT?
Yes.
That is why some learned, silks are insisting that you have to get 25%. And there was even a judgment, I think in 2008, by a court of appeal, that said that scoring 25% in FCT is mandatory for whoever would become the president of Nigeria. under the 1999 Constitution.
Okay.
This is a problem. But that was Court of Appeal. The matter will certainly get to Supreme Court this time around. And for me, I believe that FCT does not enjoy any special status. Those of us living in FCT, we don't pay any special tax. We don't contribute even more meaningfully to the economy than other parts of the country. For us to have an inherent power to determine who will become the president of Nigeria. That is my own thinking. But you see, the law is an ass. Express mention of one thing is an express exclusion of another. If the law says FCT, you must get 25% there, no matter how, callous such determination or condition is, you have to fulfill it. So
FCT being the political headquarters may have a role to play in that.
It doesn't have. There is nothing. FCT is not even a minority. FCT, look, let me tell you, FCT is just, a territory. It's just a territory. It doesn't have a government. What you have here as AMAC and other area councils, that's what they are. They are local governments within FCT. But the territory itself is governed by the president himself.
That's why it's important.
He has already scored 25% of the votes in 24 states. So why impose additional states on him, making it 25, whereas he has already met 24?
This is the state he's going to govern.
He's not governing here. He's governing Nigeria. And even, do you know the president, even though he's named by the Constitution as the minister of Abuja, cannot be the minister of Abuja. He has to appoint somebody. So why give us that special consideration? For me, I think it is inordinate.
Okay.
It is inordinate. Whoever scores 24%, 25% in 24 states in Nigeria has already met condition 2 for the production of the president of Nigeria. Because there are 2 conditions. But people are saying it's now 3. Because if you say the person must score 25% in FCT, you are now bringing a 3rd condition. Do you understand that? And that's why I say that despite the ruling of the Court of Appeal in 2008, Court of Appeal is not the final arbiter in constitutional matters in Nigeria. Do you understand that?
Yes.
In fact, the body that has the statutory responsibility to interpret Nigeria Constitution is the Supreme Court. That is the only time the Supreme Court acts as a court of first and final instance. So the interpretation of both the spirit and content of this provision, however noble or however logical it is, will be given to us by the Supreme Court. Let us be patient.
All right, we'll have a caller on the line. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us in the press.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you too. How are you doing today?
Yeah, am I speaking with Sandra Agu?
Yes, this is she.
Okay, thank you, my dear. I like your program.
Thank you so much.
My name is Dr. Ochi. I'm calling from Benue, Makodi.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Dr. Oji.
Yeah. I want to comment on something.
Okay.
Thank you. That your analyst there, Dr. Mefor, he has really impressed a lot of us. He has an in-depth knowledge of what he is analyzing. I like him, and I want to thank and commend him. He is really fair enough.
Thank you, sir.
He has really encouraged us. We, the obedient, that our mandate was actually stolen. I discovered he has explained very well to encourage us now to go and vote. But I hope a lot of us are even listening. Because when you vote and they promise you your vote will count, and at the end of the day, the vote was not uploaded, it was not compared with the manual one they brought, and the result was announced. At the end of the day, we now have that after giving the president-elect Tinubu certificate of return. Then they were now uploading results to their server up till early this week. And it was the public relations officer of the, I don't know what they call him, that one man was telling us as at last week that they were still uploading presidential results. And that was why they had not allowed the Labour Party to inspect the beavers. And at the same time, after that, they will configure it and leave the result at the back of their server for them to come and inspect after. So, you see, INEC actually failed us. And if they don't prosecute whoever that is involved in this rape of our democracy, it means that evil and corruption will continue. Now it is obvious that they have gone against the law.
Sorry, Mr. Agu, we have to let you go now because we run out of time. Thank you so much. All right, I'm so sorry I have to let you go because we run out of time for the program today. Please do join us tomorrow as we bring you live updates of what's going on in different regions here in Nigeria and follow-up of the gubernatorial elections. Thank you so much, Dr. Lo, for coming on the program.
The pleasure is always mine.
It's always amazing to talk to you. Thank you so much for watching the press today. Till I come your way tomorrow to bring you updates from the gubernatorial polls. My name is Sandra Agu, and bye for now.